Justin Degree?
Yes, we
Yes.
do. We'll even accept him.
Okay, you are live.
Under duration.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is the Special Oversight Committee for Workforce. It's our July 19th, 2024 meeting at 12:34. So the agenda, we will have introductions of members of Socwed and others who have joined us. So I'm Representative Michael Marcotte. I'm in Economic Development. Senator?
Allison Clarkson, Majority Leader, Senate Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs, and Government Operations, and Socwed. Woo! Oh, I'm passing it to Ellen. She's on my right, so
I think
okay, then I'm passing it to
Harrington
Michael.
should go.
Michael,
Yeah,
I'm
let's
passing
have,
it to-
yeah, Commissioner Harrington. You're muted, Commissioner.
I guess I'm muted in two different spots. So good afternoon, everyone. Michael Harrington, Commissioner, Department of Labor. Good to see everyone.
Thank you. And we have our legislative counsel with us, Rick.
Hey, Rick Sagel, Office of Legislative Counsel. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. And Adam.
Hi, Adam Grinold, former chair of the Workforce Development Board and former member of Socwed, here to participate or support as needed.
Thank you. Ellen.
Ellen Kaler, Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund, observer and interested party.
And we also have a couple of members from Department of Labor, Deputy Commissioner.
Hi, Deputy Commissioner Dustin Degree, former Executive Director, State Workforce Development Board.
And Cameron.
Good afternoon, Cameron Wood. I'm the Policy and Legislative Affairs Director for the Department of Labor.
Okay. And was Jay joining us today?
I believe Jay is out today, so we're all set.
Oh, we have Rowan. Rowan's here.
And Rowan is with us.
Hi, Rowan Hawthorne, Principal Assistant at the Department of Labor.
Thank you, Rowan.
So you can tell, Mr. Chair, you can tell we've been around a bit because we now have Socwed alums, Socwed emeriti.
And I think and Megan.
Hi, everyone. I'm here to support the committee.
And we're grateful.
Crushed pavement at State House.
So the next order of business, is there any changes to the agenda, any additions or deletions that anyone like to bring forward?
Nope.
Okay, seeing none. I believe it's posted on our webpage as a document that has been worked on by Senator Clarkson and
worked
Commissioner
on by our
Hamilton.
team.
Right.
The drafting team,
Right.
led actually by Michael Harrington and Jay and Ellen and I. We had a very productive meeting. And so what you see before you is what we have worked on with qualifications and duties and responsibilities. So how would you like to proceed, Mr. Chair?
Well, I think it'd be good for us to go over the document, and I don't know, Commissioner, if you want to bring us through it, or Senator, if you'd like to.
Just to remind people, we had we sort of synthesized and coordinated the drafts that Commissioner Harrington and I had presented to the committee to look at. So we sort of we wove them together in an artful fashion, we hope, for your consideration.
I'm happy to walk through the document if that's helpful for everybody.
I think it'd be good, and it'll help people that are watching
Great.
As well to go through it.
Megan, are you able to bring that up on your end?
Yeah.
Great. I'll just
And then, Mr. Chair, our hope is to approve it and then it won't say draft through it anymore.
That's correct.
Okay.
So there were two aspects to this that we, this drafting group, working group focused on. The first page, which is the qualifications, and the second page, which is duties and responsibilities. Again, this is focused specifically for the executive director of the Office of Workforce Strategy and Development. And also, this will be the individual that oversees the efforts of the State Workforce Development Board. So we ended up with 8 qualification areas, and we tried to group those together by similar content. So number 1 was a vision, so the ability to develop a clear and concise vision for the future of the state's workforce system, using input from stakeholders, including but not limited to state agencies, departments, legislators, employers, community partners, education providers, and individuals. And I don't, feel free to jump in if we have questions, but I'm just going to keep going through each one of these. Leadership and strategic direction was number 2, a proven ability to provide strong leadership and strategic direction in advancing workforce goals through the development of long-term strategies, setting priorities and overseeing the implementation of workforce development initiatives, experience coordinating service delivery across public and private entities, and managing and supervising employees. 3 was collaboration and partnership building, proven ability to foster collaboration and build effective partnerships across government agencies, educational institutions, businesses, nonprofit organizations, and other key stakeholders. Necessary skills include negotiating agreements, coordinating initiatives, and aligning resources to achieve shared workforce development goals. Number 4 was the policy development and implementation. Ability to research and understand complex federal regulations related to workforce development and history of effectively interpreting and implementing federal requirements. Necessary skills include navigating policy landscapes, ensuring compliance, and leveraging opportunities for federal and program enhancements, while also providing the governor with policy proposals for advancing Vermont's workforce strategies. 5 was board governance and stakeholder management. So experience working with a board of directors and advisory board to drive consensus, provide guidance, and ensure accountability to achieve organizational objectives related to workforce development. Strong interpersonal skills are crucial for engaging diverse stakeholders, including government officials, business leaders, educators, and community advocates. Communication and public relations. Exceptional writing and verbal communication skills to articulate workforce strategies, policy recommendations, and program outcomes effectively to diverse audiences, including the governor, legislators, media, and the public. This includes the ability to craft compelling narratives and presentations that resonate with stakeholders and support advocacy efforts. 7, project management, a proven track record in, and this was the vision at the top, project management, those were 2 new ones. And then others we had added in, a line or 2 here or there to help clarify or focus on a specific point. So project management, a proven track record in successful project management, strong organizational skills, attention to detail, and the ability to prioritize tasks effectively are essential. Adept problem-solving skills and a proactive approach will be key to overcoming challenges and driving a successful project outcome. Experience in designing, developing, managing, and evaluating large-scale projects with a proven ability to lead projects to successful completion. And finally, and I'll pause after this one to see if there's any comments or questions, prior experience. And so just as a caveat, the years are highlighted because we had some differencing of opinion, and I'm not sure we actually came to a consensus, but we did identify 5 years with the idea that we would have further discussion at the full committee meeting here today. There was some that proposed as many as 7 years prior experience, or
8.
Yeah, or 8.
8, 7 or 8.
So again, we're talking about having a minimum of however many years prior professional experience related to cross-sector collaboration, coordination, and collective goal setting in the areas of workforce, education, policy, leadership, or related field.
Yeah.
Okay. Input, any thoughts on the years of experience?
As I think Ellen had some strong feelings. I think Ellen had proposed 8. Ellen, did you feel like you wanted to advocate for 8?
Actually, I think I said 7,
Oh,
but
okay, Michael, you're better than, yes. Okay, maybe I said 8.
I mean, it was just more about making sure that the person had, I don't feel like they need to have every single one of these prior experiences at sort of the 5-year in full. I think, as Dustin rightly said, we're not looking for a unicorn here, but I think the point is that we don't want somebody that's just fresh out of college necessarily. We want somebody that has some experience, that can have some gravitas because of the way in which they're going to need to relate to the other secretaries and commissioners and the governor's cabinet and relating to the governor on these things. And that's not to, say that folks just graduated from college aren't smart as anything and can make a lot of great stuff happen. I just think that there's something about having some actual real work experience under someone's belt for a position like this that is going to be important. But that's just my 2 cents.
And I agree with that.
Adam?
Yeah, during the work of Socwed in the various iterations, it was and also within the report, the recommendation was to make this a cabinet level position. There was a lot of discussion that, no legislative initiative can dictate who is in a future governor's cabinet or not, but that the qualifications would be such that this would be a cabinet level. So I'm curious if that was part of this conversation. I think, what Ellen was just touching on, years of experience, comes close to that. But, I tried finding a job posting for the recent Secretary of Education. I wasn't able to see that, but I'm curious if this draft mirrors other types of job postings when this administration or others are seeking a cabinet level position.
So I can hop in there. It's Dustin. The reason you didn't see a job posting is because cabinet level positions, with the exception of very few, the agency of education being one of them, are at the full discretion of the executive, right? So there is no job description for the Commissioner of Labor or the Secretary of the Agency of Commerce and Community Development or Secretary of Transportation, right? So these are prescriptive recommendations, but it's hard to kind of square that circle when the rest of the cabinet is, with the exception of the advising consent of the Senate, completely up to the executive's discretion. And I think, I don't remember where it landed. I don't know if there is, I apologize for not knowing this, but is there legislative sign off on this position? I know we had talked about it in some of the previous Socwed meetings.
Only with advice and consent of the Senate.
So with advice and consent of the Senate, I mean, having a minimum to me seems even less important, because inevitably the Senate has the ability to decide whether or not that person is qualified, right? I mean, and I agree with everything Ellen and Senator Clarkson are saying, that we want to make sure that it's somebody who has experience. I would just hate to get in a situation where we are excluding somebody who might not have a very specific amount of experience, a very prescribed amount of experience, who might be great, but they only have 3 years, or they only have 2.5 years, but maybe their experience isn't in all of these, but everything else is really is a really good resume, right? The more prescriptive we are, the harder it is going to be to find that person, and the less flexibility the governor or future governors will have in getting the right person. And the right person, at least when we go out and talk to businesses, the right person isn't always going to fit the job description to a T. And I think, Mike, we heard from Kendall in the governor's office that they were hoping that this would be more of a recommend or of a preference than a hard number.
Commissioner?
I was just going to add, the other option here too is to simply add the word preferred or preferable. So again, if it's really the preference that they have, preferred candidates will have a minimum of X number of years. You could do that as well. We've seen that. I can tell you at state government level, we've actually started removing or loosening a lot of minimum qualifications from our job descriptions, so as to not exclude candidates. And again, let the hiring managers determine whether or not the person is competent enough to fulfill the role. Again, I'm just giving context for how we're doing it across state government, and that was mainly because of the fact that it's extremely hard to find qualified candidates when you have minimum qualifications. There's a lot of people that are actually if you don't meet the minimum quals, your resume is literally tossed aside, and you can't even look at it. Because they don't meet the minimum qualifications for a position. So again, to this point, if we said 5 years and we had somebody come in with 4.5 years, again, that's where I think the word preferred might be an appropriate addition here. And just for the other piece that the working group had as a discussion was, what are we expecting for qualifications as it aligns with compensation? And we'll get a more detailed number from Department of Human Resources, which is where this will go next, once we have a good draft that this group is comfortable with. But the range for typical executive director level, senior director positions is roughly between $90,000 and $110,000 a year. So again, just be thinking about that as we're talking about how many years of prior experience you want the person to have. That's it.
Adam?
Yeah, actually, Commissioner Harrington just touched on exactly my question, which was, how will this be posted? And really, this is about communicating to the potential applicant what level position this is. And I would agree with what Commissioner Harrington just said about the typical best practice of removal of those minimum standards to ensure that you are not sort of gatekeeping some really qualified applicants who, but for one little piece, are discarded. So I think that's a great approach in general. And really, it's just the wage, the compensation, the whole package, and the framing of the opportunity that I think will attract specific applicants.
I just wanted to add.
Go ahead, Michael. Go ahead, Michael.
I just wanted to add for the collective knowledge here too. There is nothing in the act that requires the posting of this position or a national search of any kind. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear. The governor and the staff may choose to do that. But at the same time, there are plenty of times where senior level members of the administration are simply appointed, and there is no search or review of multiple candidates. So again, that's not saying that's what will happen here, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page of what could potentially happen.
Allison?
So I think I've lived through a number of executive directors of workforce. I would hope very much that we use preferred and use 5 years as a minimum, because I actually think this is different. We're setting high expectations for trying to develop and build our workforce and our workforce strategies. And I think we need someone with depth of experience. And I think you can be flexible, but I think we definitely want to look outside the box. I have seen the results of looking inside the box for those candidates. And I would say it's time for us to really trust the wings and fly a little bit and hire someone who's really not necessarily known to us, but somebody with a lot more experience, because that's who we need. We need someone who's going to shake us up and take us to new heights. And so I'm happy to go with preferred, but I'm not happy to lose the notion that we're looking for someone who's really experienced in this area, because otherwise, why bother?
Okay. I would agree with that as well. I'd like loosening this up a little bit to give more space. And when you're looking at someone, we don't want to say we're with a minimum that we'd be excluding people that they probably wouldn't even apply. And that's not what we're looking for, because we could have the right person that might have 3 years experience, but are strong in all the other categories. And so, yeah, I'm fine with preferred if that works for everybody else.
Yep.
Michael's that you're good with that as well? You're
He
muted
proposed
again.
it.
I'm okay with the adding of preferred, and I was just typing it out. So if folks want to hear, I just changed the first sentence a little bit. So it just says a minimum of 5 years prior professional experience is preferred, with related experience in cross-sector collaboration, coordination, and collective goal setting in the areas of workforce, education, policy, leadership, or other professional field.
Okay. Allison, work for
Right.
you?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
Very good. Okay, so that's the way we'll go on that, and let's look at the rest of it. Hey, Michael, if you want to walk us through the rest.
Will do. So I don't know if you want me to read each one of these, but the second section was duties and responsibilities. And what we did was break this into 2 categories, because there's 2 distinct functions here. First is the Office of Workforce Strategy and Development, and then the second is the State Workforce Development Board, which has, again, a separate set of requirements. So I'll go through the first 12 pretty quickly, pause, and we'll see how people feel about those, and then we'll go through the next. So just pull this up here. Direct, manage, supervise the operations of the Office of Workforce Strategy and Development. 2, advise the governor and members of the governor's cabinet on policy practices that enhance workforce training, employment opportunities, and economic growth. 3, develop, propose, and shepherd legislative policy priorities related to workforce development, ideally as a comprehensive workforce package. Monitor other policy proposals across state government related to workforce. Convene stakeholders across the workforce system to address labor force needs and leverage resources. Work in close collaboration with the Department of Labor and the Agency of Education in furthering Vermont's workforce and economic strategies. Develop and maintain a comprehensive workforce strategy that aligns with the state's economic and workforce goals. Design, develop, implement, and maintain a data collaborative that can be used to assess workforce trends and outcomes. That relates back to the recommendation from Alicia Ordway and the data collaborative piece. Hold regional roundtable discussions with workforce partners, including state agencies, community partners, education providers, and employers. Assess regional needs and develop and manage priority projects specific to workforce expansion and development. Prepare reports and presentations for government officials, legislators, and other stakeholders, including potentially annual report to the legislature. Develop and maintain a workforce investment database and public dashboard that tracks workforce investments across the state. So different from the data collaborative, this is focused on where does the money go and how effective is the money at advancing our workforce. And assist with the design, implementation, and evaluation of workforce development programs. So I'll pause there.
Michael, on maybe the first three, could we add within so that we're making sure that it's known that we're looking, when we're talking about workforce, it's within state government as well as outside of state government?
Yep.
Yikes, we didn't make that clear?
I just want to be sure that we're clear on those.
Yes, that's essential to be clear on that. That's a good
Right.
point.
Anything else anyone sees? Okay.
The only one, and this was back to what you had mentioned, Mr. Chair, calling out the specific departments or agencies to partner with. I may add, I had labor and agency of education, but we probably should add the agency of commerce and community development because they're a key partner in that.
And Michael, should we also consider adding AHS given how many workforce programs they have?
We certainly could. That's up to this group.
I mean, in and out of state government, that's 4 of our agencies. 4 of our agencies or departments. So, I mean, that's one of the interesting aspects is that so many of our departments and agencies have different aspects of workforce training and opportunities. I mean, let alone corrections. I mean, that's part and all the human services ones.
Yeah, I mean, I would
rehab and stuff.
Yeah.
It strikes me AHS is worth mentioning also.
Yep.
Or just saying in and out of state. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think in working, I think I agree with in 5 with Commissioner Harrington adding AHS, adding commerce and community development. I think those are probably the 4 strong areas where there's that we're working with people that are outside of state government as well as inside.
Yeah.
So I think when we talk about the first 3, we want to be sure that we're focusing on state government as well, because we're not immune to employment issues.
Yeah, true. AOT, of course, has workforce training things too, and the private sector feeding AOT has strong workforce programs, as Matt Musgrave would tell us. Ellen has her hand up.
Ellen?
Yeah, I just want to remind us that this first section is about the workforce strategy development is really like above and beyond WIOA, because the WIOA specific stuff and the State Workforce Development Board activities follow. Because I think on number 5, the intention here is that we need to go beyond the entities that normally receive WIOA funds and who are, as well as the Agency of Commerce, to basically include any entity. So corrections, Agency of Agriculture, all of the agencies and departments on some level deal with workforce in some way or another. And so I think the intention here was actually collaboration across state government. So I'm actually wondering if it might make more sense to not do all the naming, but of the different entities, because we might accidentally leave some out, and just basically be explicit. This is across all of state government, as well as the outside entities working on workforce, because it really is the big umbrella, the big tent. Just a suggestion.
The only thing I would add, and I don't want to put words in the chair's mouth, but when you shared your thought the other day, Mr. Chair, we talk about convening and working across all of state government. I've added some of that in there, but I think the fact is there are very key partners or core partners that this office is going to have to work with on a daily basis. And I think that was, as we were talking, that's kind of what I envisioned you saying, is that we just have to be very clear that it really has to be a close knit collaboration with the Department of Labor, the Agency of Commerce, the Agency of Human Services, and the Agency of Education, because those are the ones that are driving, all of them have workforce programs, but these are the ones driving policy around workforce and how it ties into Vermont's economic strategy as well. So to your point earlier, Mr. Chair, I did add to number 2, both at the end where it says employment opportunities and economic growth. I said both within and outside of state government. And then on number 4, I added at the end, not number 4. Oh, I said convene stakeholders across the public and private workforce system to address labor force needs and leverage resources. And I'm happy to make any other edits.
Okay. So those 2 changes, everybody good with those? Allison, okay. And when we get to 5.
And I would also add to the, just as a point on the end of 5, where we say, this is about furthering Vermont's workforce and economic strategies, right? So again, this is more about the strategic approach to workforce and how it intersects with or drives Vermont's economy, not just a list of everybody who they're going to have to work with or that has a workforce program.
So to Ellen's point earlier, do you want to add on that work in close collaboration with VDOL and others and other state agencies and departments instead of beginning to list them all?
I am certainly happy to add in at the end of, again, I listed the Department of Labor, Agency of Education. If we want to add Agency of Commerce, Community Development, Agency of Human Resources, or Agency of Human Services, and other state agencies and departments in furthering Vermont's workforce and economic strategies.
I'm good with that.
I think that makes some sense.
Shall I move on to the State Workforce Board?
Anything else before we move on?
No, I think we're in good shape.
Okay, good.
Great. So under the second section, we're still under duties and responsibilities, but as they pertain to the State Workforce Development Board, act as the state administrator for the State Workforce Development Board and the committees of the board, which include working with the chair of the board, assisting with the convening of the board, collaborating with board members, and ensuring board compliance with state and federal requirements. In coordination with the governor's office, ensure timely appointment of board members to vacant seats on the board, provide vision and direction for the board's initiatives and programs, manage the board's budget, ensuring fiscal responsibility and accountability, ensure compliance with federal and state regulations governing the state's workforce system, maintain transparency and accountability in all board operations, serve as the public face of the board, representing its mission and initiatives to the media and the public, communicate with stakeholders to build support for board-led workforce development initiatives, prepare reports and presentations for board meetings, government officials, and other stakeholders, ensure that the State Workforce Development Board performs the functions required under the Federal Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, which includes development and implementation of the state's WIOA state plan, ensuring effective operation of the state's one-stop job system, and aligning the efforts of the core partners under WIOA to achieve the priority functions under America's Job Center Network.
So, even though we mention compliance with federal things and specific federal programs, does it make any sense to actually say here that they are sort of the federal conduit? I mean, that they would be the primary federal liaison? Does that make any sense on these things?
I don't think they would be, Senator. I think the department is the
Well, the
designated.
commissioner is that instead. Okay. I
Yeah.
just wasn't sure. Okay. Fine.
Should we reference anything here that would talk about utilizing the State Workforce Development Board outside of WIOA?
Good question.
I mean, to your point, we have, if you look at the strategic plan that Tori and Abby helped the board put together this, whatever it was, a year or two ago, there are a lot of functions under there that just, they all fit under WIOA because of how broad it is, but they are specific state-led activities. And maybe that's just an addition of a couple words to any of these.
Adam?
Yeah, I think, during the various drafting of this, it was always intended that this office and the executive director would be doing more than WIOA. It would be the additive piece of this that really is the sort of secret sauce. We sort of often went back and forth and sort of kicked it to the job duties work that was always in the future to really highlight or differentiate what does this person do versus what is the director of workforce development doing, and then what is the commissioner doing. It's that separation that I think, still it's going to be tricky to extract all of that from each other. But at some point, if there is still maintained agreement on this, that it should be highlighted, it's important to highlight that there's a difference between the board and the executive director, right? The board will have roles and duties that are outlined here, and that it is the director who can lead the in-between space between both the board and the Department of Labor for a lot of this work. So an unfortunate outcome would be that this new office and the director simply are implementing WIOA, because that would not be additive. So throughout the document, as long as that still is the intention, any opportunity to really raise that, I think is important to do.
Yeah, I think we want, I mean, this document is something that will be used to provide an applicant an understanding of what is expected of them. So I just want to be sure that they understand that they're not there just to deal with WIOA and State Workforce Development Board in that respect, but that they're also there to oversee everything else in workforce development outside of WIOA. How we articulate that, I'm not quite sure. Commissioner?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that Adam said. The fact is the State Workforce Development Board was specifically created for compliance with WIOA. Every state has to have a state workforce development board. And so, but again, I think that's why we separate these two. in terms of what are the functions under the office versus what are the functions of the board. I don't, and Dustin may know better, but I don't believe there's anywhere else in state statute that gives the board any other authority in terms of like needing to approve or provide certain materials or meet certain production and maybe maybe that can be in here. I was looking at number 3. We could certainly add something on the end of number 3 with regards to developing the state's workforce strategic plan or something like that. I think the fact is the board itself doesn't really have any full-time staff other than the executive director and the assistant, but they're in this case also going to be running an office. And the board itself doesn't necessarily have funds or performs any fiscal accountability function. So again, I'm just trying to think about the fact that I think it may come from the fact that we've combined both the office and the board work under this one position. But I'm happy to broaden some of this or
Rick?
Hey, I just want to chime in real quick and just let everyone, this might be comforting or might not be comforting, but in the actual statute that will eventually be published in the Vermont statutes annotated, we set out some pretty specific-ish directions or job duties in the actual statute for this director. So just as a reminder, not only will they oversee the affairs of the state workforce board, they also coordinate the efforts. I'm reading directly from the statute. Coordinate the efforts of workforce development in the state, work with state agencies and private partners to develop strategies for comprehensive and integrated workforce education and training, manage the collection of outcome information, and align workforce efforts with other state agencies. So, there is, even if the description is not exactly how you want it, or if you can't come to a decision, the statute does provide some kind of directives for this person to follow. So hope that helps.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting, Rick, that we align some of the earlier language under Office of Workforce Strategy and Development under the upper level, that we should align some of the language with statute more fully?
No, I mean, you can. What I was hearing, I could have been hearing wrong, is that there was a concern that this job description is mostly directed towards the state workforce work and WIOA work. And that may be true. However, in reality, in statute, which is going to carry more weight than this director has a much broader responsibility than just the state workforce board, than just WIOA. So you can make some changes to connect those two, but I wanted to give you all that just as, I don't know if it's comforting, but just so you all know.
Right, which I think goes to what we say in the beginning, which is the non-WIOA stuff up above. Am I wrong?
Are you at this part of it or the previous page?
They're all functions of the duties and responsibilities of the executive director.
Right.
So on this page, it's broken into two: the state workforce board and the Office of Workforce Development. But I would say to the point of the pieces in the statute, they align, I think, pretty well with the 12. And
right.
Megan can just scroll back up real quick of the 12 at the top there.
No.
Nope. Just the 12 at the top of page 2.
Top of page 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think like everybody else, we start looking at WIOA and we get bogged down in WIOA, but we need that executive director to be looking at WIOA, but also, and I think we've outlined it in 1 to 12 as well. If there are other duties that they need to perform. So I think we've articulated it well. Michael, anything else?
I was just going to add, I pulled up Title 10, which outlines the board functions in state statute. So the actual creation of the board was designed and aligned after the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act of 2014. However, it does outline additional duties, planning, and process of the board. And there's actually 3 core duties. Number 1 is to inform its decision making and to provide effective assistance under Section A of this section. The board shall conduct ongoing public engagement processes throughout the state to bring together employers and potential employees, including students, the unemployed, and incumbent employees seeking further training, to provide feedback and information concerning their workforce education and training needs. Maintain familiarity and promote alignment with the federal and state statute, to ensure that state-funded and federally funded workforce development and training efforts are of the highest quality and align with the state's workforce and economic goals. And then 3, the board shall have the authority to approve state-endorsed and industry-recognized credentials and certificates, including high school diplomas, post-secondary academic degrees that are aligned with the career pathways. Most broadly, I think we use this as part of the eligible training provider list, again, which is those training providers that that offer certificate programs. So again, we could add those are the other functions outside of WIOA, if we really felt like we were missing something under the State Workforce Development Board. And again, we're just talking about the duties of the executive director, not the functions of the board. So as the staffer for the board, what are going to be the duties and responsibilities of the executive director?
So thoughts, are we good with what we have? Do we want to add more? I think, this is
You're welcome.
we want to make sure we're articulating a broad, give the applicants a broad idea of what they need to be looking at, but I don't know that we need to get too deep into the weeds, and that would be, I think that would come during interviews and things like that.
Yeah, I actually think this document's in good shape, ready to go off to Beth Fastigi and her team.
I agree.
Ellen, what, and Michael and Adam?
I'm good here. Again, I'm assuming we'll get feedback from human resources and have to revisit, maybe a couple of edits here or there. So there will be another opportunity to review this.
Adam?
Yeah, back on number 8, and I don't know if I misheard or is really a substantive change or not, but Mike was just reading what he had. Page 1,
Okay.
number 8, sorry.
Are we back on qualifications?
Yes.
We are, yes. So it's the last one.
Yeah.
I think I heard Mike read that towards the end, in the areas of workforce education, policy, leadership, or other professional fields versus other related fields. And I don't know if that was by design or if I misheard that, but I think it's important to continue to keep that as related field, given what we're trying to hone in on there.
I was just trying to not use the word related twice.
Right.
So, because it starts out with related experience. So I could also just take out with experience, or, make it with experience in, and then put related field at the end.
Okay, great.
Aren't we using the word professional experience?
Yes, that's earlier on. So we're just,
Right.
It says a minimum of 5 years prior professional experience is preferred. Again, we say experience again. So again, I'm just wordsmithing it here a little bit. We might want to come up with a different word, but with experience in cross-sector collaboration,
Got it.
coordination.
Right.
Yeah, and then at the end, in or other related field.
Yeah, I think though, I'd keep related fields.
Right, that was it.
Because I think unlike
Okay,
previous, I think it's important to have as much related to this work as possible. But I
Okay.
think this is good to go to HR.
okay. Anything else? So I guess all in favor of advancing this and sending it on to HR, this document? Raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay. So it's unanimous. We'll send this off to HR and have them take a look at it and go from there.
And Mike, will you and Megan do that?
I contact, I don't know if you're talking to me or the chair, but
I think of you as Michael. I think
Okay.
of Mike as Mike. So I apologize.
no, that's all right. It's
I
all
have
right.
such a deferential notion of Michael. Anyway, whoever wants to do it, I just think it would. Michael, are you wanting to do it?
It was Beth Festigi, Commissioner Festigi, said we could work through the Department of Labor's contact at their talent acquisition person. So I'm happy to send that off and copy anybody, Mr. Chair, if you want me to do that. I'm happy to.
Okay, good. So, I think, is there any public input?
Do we have anyone from the members of the, other than the public who've already identified themselves, who are not necessarily that public? Do we have anybody else participating?
I
Nobody
believe
else
every,
is-
What, Megan?
Nobody else is here with me, just FYI.
okay. So scheduling the next meeting, I think maybe we're getting to the point where we probably should think about meeting in person. Because I think the next piece will be, well, of course, we'll probably, if we get this document back, if they've suggested any changes that we should make, then we can have that quick discussion and deal with that. But I think time's come for us to meet in person to start talking about how do we separate these duties out between the Commissioner of Department of Labor and WIOA, and then the overall duties of the new executive director. There, would it be best if we send out a poll? Megan, are you able to send a doodle poll out?
Yes, I can.
Okay, maybe
So
we can throw some dates in.
I
and-
hate to have our campaigns rear their ugly heads, but it is campaign season. So I would prefer, if we can, to do morning meetings, just because. I mean,
So
there are
long-
also
yeah,
just other
so
lots
long
of
as
meetings,
it's-
but
Yep, I'm fine with mornings, as long as we're not doing Mondays, but Tuesday through Friday,
yeah,
I can do. Tuesdays are the best. Thursdays are good too, Fridays, I can do Wednesdays, but that makes it a little more difficult for me, but I don't know what, Michael, I don't know what your schedule's like.
I'm available, so as long as I know in advance, yeah, the mornings are fine.
Okay. Megan, why don't we put something together? Maybe look at Tuesday mornings. And maybe we should think of a full morning, so maybe a 9 to 12. If we could do that. And I don't know what people's, Allison,
we could-
afternoons are not good. If we start getting on a roll with something, I'd hate to cut off at noon. But I guess we can look at that and go
hey, if we're
forward.
still going strong after 3 hours, that's
Yeah,
that's not bad.
we,
Don't work for people? Or should I just send it out with the next 4 or 5 Tuesdays and see what is the best one?
yeah, let's do the,
Tuesday the
Tuesdays.
13th
Tuesdays and
Primary
Thursdays.
day does not work.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 13th, we'll take that one off, but
And, yeah, and I know I can't do the first Tuesday in August, so I know that sadly I have a family reunion.
Okay.
So I'm
that's the
over
6th.
the first two Tuesdays, so the third Tuesday in August I could probably do.
Okay. So let's
Sorry.
shoot out something that does Tuesdays and Thursdays. Morning, 9 to 12. And then we'll see what everybody's schedules look like, and I know Kendall's not here, so we'll hear from her as well, and then we'll see what's good for everybody. Anything else?
No, this is good.
Okay.
We've
Yeah,
moved
no,
it
thanks,
forward.
everybody. Allison and Michael, thank you. Ellen, Adam,
And
thank you for working on that. Much appreciated.
And Ellen, we were a good team. We can
Okay.
take on more tasks.
Have a
All
great
right,
weekend,
everyone.
everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Rowan,
This was
thank you for your
terrific.
help. Megan, thank you as well.
Megan,
Everybody have a
yeah.
good weekend. Motion to adjourn.
I would move that we adjourn.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you,
we're
Mike.
adjourned.